Beginning to feel like a rap god.
What is going on? Either is Ari right here, Moose and Keith, Better Sports Network on a Wednesday morning. You're going to have me from 10 to 11 a.m. We're hoping we get Moose this hour. We'll talk about that if and when he does join us. All is good. Don't worry. Don't fret. We didn't break up. We're still going strong. He had a few car issues this morning, so hopefully he'll hop on during this first hour. If not, you'll get him at 11 a.m. Wow. So there are a few things that I want to talk about today. I promise you we're going to get into Bronny James and the McDonald's All-American game. I was hooked. I was locked. I was glued to the television watching that last night. You got a bunch of baseball stuff that we're going to dive into as well. I've got some futures I still want to talk about that we haven't gotten to. You guys know Better's Eye, MLB Network. We get launched today, 4 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you guys are tuning into that. So I'll be there. And then Better's Eye each and every day, whether it's noon or 6 p.m. Those are our normal times, right? There is some big NBA stories that we're going to have to talk about too. Kevin Durant's back tonight. And that kind of shakes up what the Western Conference is and might be. And of course, we'll take your phone calls. Dive in, guys. Press that call button. Come on, join me, make your voice heard. And of course, I'll be reading through the chat. Good morning to everybody that's checking in this early and this often. But I think we start with Aaron Rodgers, right? Because I alluded to it yesterday that I thought the thing that could make this deal work would be if the Jets said, okay, Packers, we know you want a first-round pick. The best I can do, the best we can do, we'll give you our 13, you give us our 15, and then we'll iron out the other parts of the trade. Well, wake up this morning, and all reports seem to be Uncle Keith might have been right. So multiple sources are putting their, case out there that it might look something like this. Jets would get Aaron Rodgers. Jets would get number 15. The Packers would get 13. The Packers would get 43. So now the Packers would get the number 2 pick this year. And then the other hang-up is what happens with that third piece of compensation that the Packers want. So this is where it gets a little muddy, and it depends on who you're reading and who you're believing. Everyone's got a little bit of a different take on this as to what their sources are telling them. So from what I can kind of decipher for all of you, it appears that the Packers clearly want one more piece to be a part of this, whether it's a second or a third round pick, whatever it may be, some sort of conditions on that pick. The Jets, though, want some sort of stipulation in there. Again, if you believe what you're reading, and some of the people I've spoken to off the record are saying, yeah, believe it, this is what the Jets are talking about, is that the Jets want some, I guess, how would you word it? Not clarity. They want some ability to say that if Aaron Rodgers were to retire after next season, we don't want that trade, that part of the trade to actually be there. So let's say it's a 2025 second round pick that's included in this. We'll spin it forward like 2 years, right? That's one thing that I had heard. If Aaron Rodgers were to retire after next season, suddenly it's 2024. We're in the offseason. Aaron Rodgers says, I'm out. I'm retired. I'm done playing. What they would want is that stipulation in there that, boom, no, the Jets don't have to give you that 2025 pick, all right? There are also ways that they would like to maybe have like escalator clauses in there too, like if the Packers want something to the effect of, hey, if Aaron Rodgers plays X amount of games for you over the next 2 years, or he takes you to the AFC Championship, that third round pick that you're offering us in 2025, we want that to be a second round pick. So that's why, listen, the deal's going to happen. Aaron Rodgers is going to be a New York Jet. We all know that, barring anything catastrophic. But there are still a little bit of like dotting of I's, crossing of T's that we can't figure out right now. Ultimately, like I said, it's going to happen. I think that there will be those stipulations, and the rescinding of the pick is the big thing. I have never seen that happen before in a deal. And I know that I think it was on Get Up this morning, or one of the shows that Tannenbaum's on Get Up, right? Tannenbaum was saying that that's not something that happens. Listen, Mike Tannenbaum does a decent job on television. Go check out his latest mock draft. Okay, I'm not trying to make enemies here, but just go check out his latest mock draft, and you'll see why sometimes I take those words with a grain of salt. I was talking to my sons about this last night. I'm like, do I? All right, I sort of did. Sorry. The New York Jets, Woody Johnson, he spoke, and he said he is anxious to get this deal done. Well, I think we're anxious. Yeah, we're anxious, he told a small group of reporters on Tuesday at the NFL annual meeting. I guess as we look forward, we're optimistic, but we have a plan, so we're willing to stick with our plan. And I don't think anybody is hyperventilating at his best at this point. All right, so what do we know from that? We know that they want to get the deal done. But just like the Packers aren't in a rush, right? Like when you think about it, you start talking about this word leverage, like who holds the leverage? Oh, the Packers hold the leverage because they're going to have to pay Aaron Rodgers anyway, and they're not going to do it till June 1st. And they know that Jordan Love is already working out with his guys, blah, 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 blah. Nah, the Jets have all the leverage because the Packers have nobody that could even trade him to. So if he's just on that roster, now you're getting all these issues with like, oh my goodness, what are we going to do with Aaron Rodgers? Forget it. I don't really think there's much leverage in this situation. And it doesn't happen that often in these deals, right? In these dealings, like usually someone has a leg up. You could even talk about like I always bring this back to like dating situations, right? Like usually someone in the dating situation has a little bit of leverage, right? A little bit of leverage. When you're talking with them, a little bit of leverage here. I'm not so sure there is leverage on either side. Like I'm trying to figure it out if there is, and you guys tell me if you disagree with me on this one. I think it's kind of a level playing field. The Packers have a few things that they want. The Jets have a few things that they want. But ultimately, it has to get done because the Jets don't have a plan B. And honestly, the Packers don't have that much of a plan B either. Like their plan is set. So if, let's say for argument's sake, this deal fell through. Let's do this. Let's play it out like that. The deal falls through. The New York Jets don't get Aaron Rodgers, and the Packers are stuck with Aaron Rodgers. Suddenly, like June 1st comes around, and Aaron Rodgers shows up. Awkward, right? Like Paulie D would say on Jersey Shore, awkward. Like what happens there? Because Aaron Rodgers is better than Jordan Love, right? Can we all agree on that? Raise your hand if you don't think, yeah, exactly. Aaron Rodgers is better than Jordan Love. But the Packers have already gone forward and said, this is what we're doing. Jordan Love's our quarterback. He's going to work with Christian Watson. He's going to work, like he's going to do all these things. But if Aaron Rodgers is there, now you got to figure it out. Like, are you going to say, all right, bye, Aaron, just go home and we're going to pay you that $60 million or whatever the number is? No. So now it's awkward. So they have to get rid of Aaron Rodgers, and there doesn't appear to be another suitor. Now, if you're the New York Jets, let's play that part out too. Let's imagine, sorry, Baby J, Wally, and everybody in there in our chat that are diehard Jets fans. Let's imagine that this falls through and the New York Jets don't have Aaron Rodgers. What are you doing? Hey, Zach Wilson, you want to be our starting quarterback? No. And there's really, I mean, like, I know that I made this joke with Moose like a month and a half ago. At that point, you ended up with Tannehill. Like, that's what you're doing. Sorry, Baby J, I know you don't like this game. But the point of this game is, I actually would like everyone to, as Aaron Rodgers says, relax. It's going to get done. Both sides need it to get done. It's just a matter of when. And every television show is going to come on and talk about this because each and every day there's a new wrinkle in this game. Baby J, I don't like this game. Wally Montero, this game sucks. Sorry, guys. I'm not sorry. Guys, this game just proved out that you have nothing to worry about. The Jets have to get this deal done. The Packers have to get this deal done. All right? It's gonna get done. This game is what the Jets do. We are above it. Guys, you're fine. Don't worry about it. Because then there's also Next wrinkle. What's going on with Lamar Jackson? I would like Lamar Jackson, and I love Lamar Jackson. You know this. I met him on the day after Heisman. Nicest guy. Seriously, family was nice. He was taking pictures, kissing babies. Had nothing. I have nothing but the utmost respect for Lamar Jackson. And I think what the NFL is doing right now is interesting. And I'm going to lay that out for you in a second. I think Lamar Jackson needs to avoid Twitter a little bit. So Arthur Blank came out and said the reason why we were willing to give more of an offer for Deshaun Watson as opposed to a guy like Lamar Jackson is because Watson didn't have the injury issues that Lamar Jackson has. Lamar Jackson has missed, 11 games over the last 2 seasons. Everyone loves throwing out this, like, he's missed 34% of his games over the last 3 games. It's really easy to push your narrative when you put a percentage on, because you could pick any number you want. Like, I love when people are like, hey, he's the first guy to do this in the last 33 games. Like, that's the number you pick. But if you pick the number of 39 games, he doesn't matter as much. Like, you need to sometimes decipher where your information is coming from and, like, read through the information a little bit, but neither here nor there. So Arthur Blank comes out and says that stuff. Let me read you the Lamar Jackson tweets because I wrote them down for myself. Remember me sitting out on my guys week 1 versus the Jets to week 12 versus the Broncos. How come all of a sudden I sit out because of money in which I could have gotten hurt at any time with that time frame? When we know the Super Bowl been on my mind since April 2018. He then subtweets. Let's get real. I rather have 100% PCL than go out there and play horrible, forcing myself to put my guys in a bad situation. Now that's selfish to me. So remember yesterday that I said I didn't believe that he was as hurt as we all thought. And, you know, he wasn't playing Lamar Jackson at the end of the season because it was about money. Man, Uncle Keith is right again. I am just, like, really spot on today. Guys, you should all applaud me. Come on, give it. No, it's everything that we all saw. I'm not a genius, even though I play one on TV. It was obvious. This was about money. This was about him, you know, not resting on his laurels, but sitting on his bed and not willing to get out of that bed because the Ravens weren't willing to pay him. And he knew that. And now, if he requested this trade on March 2nd and they're not willing to do this, then, like, he wants out. This relationship is fractured. It is broken. Is it over? I'm not willing to say that, because despite all of the places that make sense for Lamar Jackson to be a part of next year, it's odd how many crickets we're hearing. No one's making offers. I know that Jacob Bassett just threw that in the chat about the Patriots. I talked about that yesterday too. Meek Mill, Bob Kraft, Bill Belichick, all of this. Lamar makes a lot of sense to the Patriots, but they seemingly don't want to go after him. Lamar makes a lot of sense to the Colts. They seemingly, like, I mean, Irsay comes out and says, I don't want to pay him a guaranteed contract. You don't have to. Lamar is not sitting there saying, I want $500 million guaranteed. What he's saying is he wants a large sum of it guaranteed. And what he's saying is he wants a Watson deal, even though he knows he's not getting a Watson deal. Guys, you need to stop with this. It's not about him getting $500 million guaranteed. If the contract is $500 million, he ain't seeing that anyway. None of these guys do. Mahomes' deal, Josh Allen's deal, Kyler Murray's deal, Aaron Rodgers' deal. All of these guys are not really seeing the $300, $400, $500 million. It's about the guarantees. And Lamar is sitting there saying, all right, what's the going rate? Watson got 240. I want that. Oh, you won't give that to me? Kyler got 180. Let me get that. That makes sense. Just do the 180, do the 190. 3 years from now, if it ends up, let's say it's 3 years, whatever, 5 years, and 3 years from now, you're not happy. Okay, you move on. If you're that team. It's crazy to me the things that we get hung up on. Now, the other part of this that I wanted to discuss before we move on is what the NFL is doing. And this is where, and you know, someone, I just lost the part in the chat, but someone just wrote in there, if the Patriots get Lamar Jackson, it makes the Jets look stupid. I kind of agree with you. If I were the Jets, I would at least, again, I think the deal is done. It's just not signed. But if I think the Jets, I would have kicked the tires on Lamar. I think Lamar is a better long-term option for the New York Jets. Maybe not the immediate gratification that you want of Aaron Rodgers. Who's writing in here? Cam Newton 2.0? I don't know about that. I think Lamar is a better quarterback than Cam Newton. Hey, Nick Durst, thanks a lot. Congrats to Keith on 4 years in Secaucus. Yes. 2 days ago, 4 years in MLB and NHL Network. So the thing about the NFL right now, and I was thinking about this a lot this morning, and I'm kind of going back and forth on this. So when you look at the NBA, it's the wild, wild west, right? The owners don't own anything besides the names of teams. The players run things. Kyrie Irving says he doesn't want to be somewhere. What does he do? He threatens to sit out. He gets traded. James Harden says he didn't want to be in Houston anymore. What did he do? He let himself get chubby on purpose and lazy. They traded him. Kevin Durant says he doesn't want to be somewhere. You get traded. Like on and on and on. The players run the NBA. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I really don't. I'm just a talking head on television right now that's telling you I am about player empowerment. I typically side with the players over the owners. I think that too many people out there go, well, the owners are paying the bills. They are. And the owners can cut you as much as they like, as often as they want, whenever they want. So that's why I am more player empowerment. I'm fine with player movement. Work and grind wrote there, labor for labor. It's true. Like I was never in a quote unquote union, but I 100% would be the guy that supports the labor, workers that are picketing to try to get more rights. I am that guy. That's how I was raised. I think my parents did a fantastic job with that. I understand what a dollar means. I understand the hard work. Not to make this about me, but I am the guy that, as a broadcaster, came up doing one-man band. I was shooting my own stuff and editing, and I was, producing things. I wasn't given anything in this career. I wasn't. I had to work as hard as anybody else. I had to work harder than other people. I had to work crazy late night shifts, overnight shifts, traffic reporting, weather, like everything. And I learned that from like the hard work that my mom put in as a stay-at-home mom, raising me and my sister, and my father grinding and working as hard as he did, from a guy that didn't have a college education to become the vice president of Lloyd's Bank International. Like I saw what hard work can get you. So that's why I am pro the worker. But what the NFL is doing right now, and whether you want to call it cahoots, whether you want to call it collusion, the owners clearly have gotten together. Whether, like, I guess it's like that secret, like there's a secret group, right? And there's probably a secret text thread where they're all like, all right, this is encrypted, so don't worry, guys. Don't worry. No one will read this. Don't pay Lamar. Don't do it. Yeah, but he's really good. Now, but if we do that and we give him, we have to make sure that the Cleveland Browns and the Haslams and all of them realize they made a mistake. And this isn't something that we're going to let happen in our league. It's our league, guys. Remember, it's our league. Okay. It's our league. It's our league. And then you got the one owner on one team that goes, yeah, but Lamar Jackson's really good at football. Like, he can help me win. No. I get it. And yes, he can help you win. But we need to win the league. Well, what do you mean, man? We need to make sure that the players don't run this league. This is about us. No, it's not. It's about the players. Yes. No. It's about us. We own the teams. We own it. Remember that. And I feel like that's what's going on right now. They don't want to relinquish any power to these players. So you got the business aspect of that saying like, hey, we're managers, we're owners, we run this. And you got the players saying, like, we want some power here. We want some guarantees. Now, I'll say this. I think that the NFL has done one good shift here. They have done a good job of giving more guarantees. Like, the days of Darrelle Revis having to hold out to get a one-year guarantee are over, right? Players don't have to hold out for that. And, woe is me. Like, people are going to say Lamar Jackson turned down the 3 years, $133 million, which apparently was guaranteed, even though we don't have an official word on that. But we're pretty sure. $133 million guaranteed is life-changing, life-altering money for all of us. But it is what the going rate is what you're going for. And that's not what the going rate is for someone who was an MVP at 23 years old, who's 26 years old, and is still considered one of the 6, 7, maybe 8 greatest quarterbacks in the land. So Lamar Jackson wants his money. He's willing to put forward for it. An issue for Lamar Jackson has been, I guess, the PR of this. Having mom run things, not having an actual agent that is able to sit in these meetings and able to do this. I think it hurts. I do. And we do appreciate everybody in the chat talking about like the unions and the strikes. Like I'm pro-union. I am. And maybe some people aren't. If you're not and you feel like the NFL is running things correctly, look, call in. Tell me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe you see something I don't. But I'm here for the players. And I think that the NFL, sorry, owners, you might have to relinquish a little bit of power. And it's not stark. Think about it. The Browns made a mistake. So how do you fix that mistake? You don't fix the mistake by pinning it on Lamar Jackson and saying, Lamar, nobody's going to sign you. Give him the 170, give him the 180, give him the 190. Look what Daniel Jones just got. Almost 100 million guaranteed? Give Lamar his 170. Give him his 180. Move on. All right, we're going to move on. We'll take one quick break here. When we get back, I want to dive into the NBA. We got 10 games on the slate. Kevin Durant is back. Got a fascinating game that's going to be on our better cast, the Mavs and the Sixers. It's fascinating on many different levels because of what's going on with Dallas and what kind of is going on in Philly too. Very quietly, Sixers struggling a bit, and players, they're not playing. We'll do that. We'll do all that and so much more. Oh, by the way, don't forget, we're going to talk some Bronny James before we get out of here at 11 a.m. Eastern. I am with you until 11 a.m. Eastern. We're hoping that Moose hops on. It is Moose and Keith, Better Sports Network. Be right back.
Talk about your picks and your fantasy teams on Better Sports Network.
The importance of checking out the site that you're playing on. Default rankings of these sites. A lot of times they don't get updated. I know from experience. I used to write default rankings for the NFBKC, the basketball version of the NFBC. I'd write these default rankings in June for the NBA, before the NBA draft, before free agency opened up. And guess what? I was never asked to write an update article or update the default rankings. This happens a lot. Maybe if there's something obvious, it gets updated. Aaron Judge, for some reason, hurts his back. Maybe they make that change. Just maybe. But you don't know that. And that's why it's just so important that you show up to your draft room or you do that pre-draft prep. We're all busy. We know we're about to devote all time to baseball drafts. Why not spend the extra 20 to 25 minutes to invest properly in your team, to go and see which of those players are way down default rankings? They're going to be different on all of these sites, and you're going to be looking at them and going, maybe their analysts think a certain player who shouldn't be in the top 100, who should be maybe even not even the top 200, will be in that top 100. You got to check that out. You got to know where you're playing, just like you got to know your format when you sign up for the league. It's just so crucial, and people just skip right over it. You think it's cool to show up to the draft room 3 minutes before the draft. Well, number one, it's not cool because the commissioner's trying to make sure it is organized, especially me, who runs auctions. You can't, it's one thing if someone doesn't show up for the snake draft. Oh, well, doesn't ruin it for everyone. Auctions, you can't have someone not show up. Auto bidding, auto auctioning, it ruins the sanctity of those drafts here. which is why I always recommend, hey, make it easy on your commissioner. Don't make them send those texts there. It's annoying. You shouldn't have to do that. Don't wait till the last minute and get in there about 20, 25 minutes before so you can just look up and down the entire default rankings list so you can make a queue out of that, Ron. And the reason I keep saying this is because people still show up 2-3 minutes before the draft, and that's it. In fact, in one of my auctions, people were asking me where certain players were, and I go, did you search their name? No, I just got in. Well, that's no excuse right there. That's your own fault. I mean, when you're organized, so you're a hard person to ask here.
You're getting those questions. This is your preschool league, right? People don't know how to search player names.
People freak out. They don't think. That's the problem. Because they show up 2 minutes before the draft. That's why.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com. Weekdays at 5 Eastern on Better Sports Network.
When I land, can you fit me in your plans? I like you, I do. We went a better friends.
Moose and Keith on Better Sports Network.
Hey, this guy played for Philadelphia, the Allen Iverson shirt, one of my favorite shirts that I own. Got it at the NBA store. On New Year's Day, actually. New Year's Eve, actually, is when we were there. Hey, tonight, beginning at 7 o'clock Eastern, 7:30 Eastern, actually. It's the NBA on Bettercast. You watch the Dallas Mavericks at the Sixers compete in our live Q&A contest on the Better Sports Network app. Answer predictive questions about the game and have fun chatting with our community in real time. You can win authentic hand-signed items from your favorite athletes. Better Sports Live with Lisa Ann and Rick Hamla will air on bettersports.com starting at 7 o'clock Eastern. Going to be a lot of fun there. A lot of people talking about tomorrow. Obviously, it is a high holy day, as some people had said. Should be a national holiday. Baseball is getting started. Clearly, a lot of storylines there. But let's take a second and talk about the Mavs and the Sixers game that we'll have on our Bettercast. So you got the Dallas Mavericks heading totally in the wrong direction, now in the 11th seed, right? Which means they are not in the play-in round. It's a team that was supposed to be built to make the playoffs. But a recent run of 3-7 over their last 10 really has them just out of it. They're struggling on the road, 15-23 on the road. Just a bad go and the wrong time to have a bad go of it if you are the Dallas Mavericks. Luka's still getting his points and Kyrie's still getting his points, but they don't have that third option and they're still not playing defense. And remember, when the trade was made, we knew that guys like Finney Smith were going to be missed because they played defense and that team doesn't play defense. Now, the flip side of things for tonight, the game being in Philadelphia, is the fact that the Sixers are happy to be home because they have been struggling mightily as well. They have a 26-11 record at home, which you love if you're Philadelphia, but you have no idea right now, at least as we sit here in the morning, whether or not James Harden's going to play. He's missed a handful of games dealing with the Achilles thing. You've got Embiid. He sat out the last game, which he got, lambasted for not meeting up with Nikola Jokic, which, oh, by the way, cost Embiid the top spot from a betting standpoint for the MVP. Basically, Jokic and Embiid are now lockstep and tied for your top spot there. Mavericks are 7-3 against the spread in the last 10 meetings between these two teams. I think the Sixers probably win this game, but the problem is I don't know how to pick this game because I don't know if Embiid is playing and I don't know if Harden is playing. So what I would implore all of you to do is wait. Listen, if you think Dallas is going to win, just hit it now. Fine. But if you're not sure about which side is going to win, wait. There's no reason why you have to place a bet not knowing if Embiid and Harden are going to play. You're allowed to wait. That's okay. That is your right. You can do that. I would also say throw in a Tyrese Maxey player prop maybe. I think he's going to have himself a night. So there's a little breakdown of the Mavs and the Sixers. Jacob Asa1 writes, if the Mavs don't make the playoffs, Kyrie won't have a ton of options in free agency, in my opinion. Think he'll be in LA. Yeah, I think the conventional wisdom leads you to believe that the LA Lakers are the best landing spot for Kyrie Irving. Apparently him and LeBron have made up. And I'm not saying that they're boys again, but they're friends. And D'Angelo Russell is a free agent at the end of the year. Most people believe that D'Angelo Russell is going to bounce. So you plug Kyrie in there. You re-sign Rui Hachimura. You try to bring back that young core of gritty players, the Beasleys of the world, the Vanderbilts of the world, right? You have Anthony Davis in tow. And then you're built to actually have a real season. One of the issues always when you're talking about someone like Kyrie Irving is everywhere he's gone, things haven't worked. I'm not a piler on, but it's hard to ignore what I see. He wanted out of Cleveland, went to Boston. It didn't work. He wanted out of Boston, went to Brooklyn. It didn't work. He wanted out of Brooklyn, went to Dallas. It didn't work. I mean, 2 + 2 does equal 4. 3 + 3 equals 6. And a good hair day does equal Moose. So we are going to be joined by Mark Malusis. There he is. Are you in front of that window on purpose so that there's like a halo over you and the light is shining because Mark Malusis is in the house?
We are in the Easter season, right? The Lenten season. So
yeah, you got to pull the microphone a little closer to you. We're having.
This is the best spot I got.
Yeah. Just have that a little closer to you, and we're good.
Yeah. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, rough morning for you.
Hello.
Everything okay?
Yeah, started out with a flat tire at 8:00 this morning. Fantastic on the Merit. Thank God for the Connecticut Department of Transportation. Called AAA. So I called AAA, and my dad, God bless his soul, he's amazing, right? He's still alive. I mean, but he's out doing Pilates right now at 10:00 in the morning, right? He's working out and doing his thing. But my dad he and my 2 sisters, we are all on AAA, right? So he wants to make sure, and he does it all the time. I called AAA. I was like, I got a flat tire. I'm on the Merit. That's fine. Where are you on the Merit? I'm like, oh, I'm off the side of the road. Okay. We'll be there within 30 to 45 minutes. I'm like, fantastic. So you'll be able to change the tire. And she's like, no, we're going to tow you. Tell me the place you want to be towed to. I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I'm in between Greenwich and Stamford. I don't know, by 29 or 31 on the Merrick going southbound. And so then she's like, we'll tow you to a place, and then you have to call us back, and then we'll send somebody out to change your tire.
Wait, what?
Yeah. And I was like, wait, that makes no sense.
Why can't
the person that tows me take me to why can't they change the tire? Like wherever they might.
Oh, because I guess it wouldn't be covered by AAA at that point.
No, it's all covered by AAA. They cover the towing, they cover the changing of the tire, like anything. It's emergency roadside service. So anything like that, it's all covered. You pay the premium and everything like that. Yeah. So it should all be covered. But you had to do the 2-step process. You have to get towed first, and then you have to call AAA back. Then they'll send somebody wherever service station you're at to then change your tire.
Oh, so you're talking this is a 3-4 hour process.
Yeah, that's what I said to the woman on the phone. And she's like, I'm sorry, this is the way it works. I'm like, well, why does it necessarily have to work that way? So I call that, and then I call Don. I'm like, listen, I got a flat tire. She's like, terrible. After I drop the boys off at school, I'll swing by. So in the meantime, I'm out of the car because I don't want to get sideswiped when I'm sitting in the car and die. Yes. So I'm out of the car.
That would put a damper on all of our days.
No doubt about it. So I'm standing in the brush on the side of the road. I'm getting texts from other parents that attend my kid's school. Hey, I saw you on the side of the road. Are you okay? Yes, I have a flat tire.
Stopping, buddy.
Flying right by. So but it's all good. It's fine. Like, probably by the time you recognize it or realize it, you're way gone and you're past it and you're not going to cause an accident. So then the Connecticut great guy stops by. Connecticut, the DOT in an emergency vehicle. And I'm like, oh, are you with AAA? He goes, no, I'm not with AAA. He goes, what do you got? I go, a flat tire. He goes, I'll change it. I go, okay, great. What's the charge? He's like, it's free. I go, that's amazing. It's free. He goes, yeah. You know, this is what taxes pay for. This is free. We'll I'll change the tire for you. So bing, bang, boom. About 30 minutes later, the tire was just absolutely destroyed. Thank God the rim is not bent, I don't believe. But he changed the tire. I tried to tip him, wouldn't accept a tip. I tried to tip him on 3 occasions, would not accept the tip. He's like, no, all good, all good. He's like, I'm on like a donut. He's like, you can only drive on that maybe 2 days max, and then you have to get yourself a tire. I'm like, no, I understand. I appreciate it. He goes, all right, have a good day. And that was it. Called AAA, canceled the service, and then I sat in an hour and 40 minutes of traffic to try and get here in time. And I made it. So there you go. Happy Wednesday. I called my dad. He goes, that's a hell of a start to a day. I go, there's no doubt about it. I go, it's awful. I mean, it's just terrible. And it was like a bomb went off. Like not literally.
Like you knew it felt like the psh,
like
right?
all of a sudden, like I'm listening to music and then you hear boom, and then you hear, and then it's just and then I check the tire pressure because you can in the Acura. My car's like 4 years old, but in some cars you can check on your where the tire pressures are. Everything's else. My tire pressure on my front right tire was at 0.
Yeah.
Brutal.
So now, all right. So where you pulled off, quasi dangerous.
Yes.
Okay. Because
the first spot I pulled off was really dangerous. Like there was the rail, then there was a little strip of grass, maybe like 20 inches of pavement, then the line that began the lane. So I was like wedged up against the rail, and I was like, I can't stay here. I'm going to die. So then I drove on the flat tire, maybe a quarter of a mile I saw a patch where I could get off and where I'm at least a little bit off the road. Yeah.
And that's a scary, I've had flat tires too. That's a scary thing too. When you're probably on a rim basically right now, you're like, please don't screw this up. Please don't screw this up. Let's just go over this way. All right. The second question, and I got to ask it because this was asked in the chat. Why? So was it a dangerous enough area that you didn't feel comfortable changing the tire yourself?
Yes.
That's what I figured.
Well, it was also like I haven't changed the tire in a long time. Like I used to when I had you
were in dress clothes also.
I was in dress clothes.
Yep.
I was in grass. It wasn't an easy area to kind of get the tire changed.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
So
I got you back on this one.
It's not like I'm against changing a tire. It's just that I haven't done it in a while and everything's changes. Like the last time I changed a tire, I used to have the the crank and crank system, and you'd hook it underneath the car. There was like that latch, and you'd hook it up and then crank it up and then get the lug nuts off and make sure you do that properly, because then you want to tighten them properly, and you do it every other way. You know the deal. You've changed the tire before. I haven't done it in a while. This guy changed the tire in like 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's fast.
Yeah, it was like quick, lickety split. It was done. He was great.
Some cars too, by the way, and the other reason I asked that is, and it ended with the guy changing it for you. Some of the new cars don't give you spare tires anymore.
No, I don't have.
That's like a thing now. Some don't even put spare tires in the trunk anymore.
Well, I got right. So mine was a donut that was underneath the car.
Yeah.
So it was a system to where you had to unwind it.
It's annoying to get that out from underneath.
It was a disaster.
I had to do that with Jody's GMC. She's got an Acadia. I did that. She got a flat, and she was in a parking lot. She came out and her tire was flat, and she called me. So I met her, and what I did was, I swear to God, I went on, because it had been probably 10 years since 12 years, whatever, since I changed a tire. I went on YouTube and I double checked how to change a tire on a GMC, because I couldn't figure out how to get the tire from underneath the car because it's on the chain thing. And YouTube was great. Looked it up. I'm like, done. And I was able to change her tire. But the difference is I was in a parking lot, not on a highway, risking my life.
Yeah. Well, and it was just terrible timing. It just was. And when it was, I was like, well, it's gone. Thank God there's nothing more serious. Thank God I'm okay. Thank God I didn't get into an accident, all those things, right? So lucky in that aspect of it. But I was like, oh my God, because we're in a scenario where I know you're done at 11. We're doing the show this morning. I got someplace I got to be at 12:30 this afternoon in the city. And I'm like, holy cow. And my wife was great. Donna was great. She's like, why don't you take this car, take my car. I'll wait and take your car. I'm like, Donna, no, like let me just get the donut on the car and let's go from there, because I'm not going to leave and drive down to the city and leave my wife on the side of the road on the Merritt Parkway waiting for somebody to come.
Yeah, I agree with your decision there.
I'm not doing that. I'm like, Donna, I appreciate the offer. I appreciate
You
the offer, but I'm not gonna do that. Like, come on.
You show up and you're like, "Hey, Keith, I made it on time for the 10 o'clock." I'm like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "Oh, let me tell you. So I just left Don on the side of the road."
Yeah.
Wait, what? Yeah. Just, I mean, it's like a wooded area. It's fine.
Right.
Like, there's an exit about a half a mile away. If anything happens, she can walk.
Dude,
What?
I sat in the car for like a good 15 minutes, and then I was like, no. I got to get out of the car.
Did you? Why? It was one of those feelings like you felt like someone could hit the car? Is that what it was?
Yeah, kind of, because I mean, we're driving all over the place. You see people looking at their phones.
Oh yeah, how many times you're driving next to someone, you see them like this, and you're like,
they're not paying attention.
Seriously. Yeah,
like, and so like I didn't want to be one of those casualties of that. Like I didn't want to be standing or sitting on the side of the road, get hit by a car, and then I'm heading to the hospital. Like that's not one. So I was like, let me get out of the car. Now, if a car comes and loses and basically is headed right toward me, am I going to be able to get out of the way? I'm not so sure, but I just
you're
felt
pretty fast. You're nimble.
I felt a little bit more safer that way than the other.
I think you're nimble. You're light on your feet. That's what I've been told.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Happy Wednesday, Keith.
Hey, happy Wednesday. So I already did some NFL, and I'm going to pick your brain on the Rodgers situation. I was doing a little NBA here. Level of excitement for you on Kevin Durant playing tonight is what?
I don't know, 5 or 6.
Yeah. But I think there is, and what I alluded to early on in the show is the fact that Durant being healthy for the Suns changes everything about the Western Conference.
Oh, no question. I mean, they're one of the ones, just like we talk about the impact of Paul George and his injury with the Los Angeles Clippers. And you could look at the Sacramento Kings and say, well, youth is on their side, but inexperience is on their side as well. I know everyone talks about the Golden State Warriors, and I know they're finally winning some games on the road, and people are going to decide with the defending NBA champs. But Golden State has to get a lot better and significantly better on the road for me to all of a sudden trust that Golden State then is going to be this team that we saw last year. Be this 3-point shooting barrage and what we all witnessed a year ago. And then you get to Denver, as you've seen Jokic fade a little bit. I know he's had back-to-back 31-point games, but the Denver Nuggets and gotten Joel Embiid to favoritism when you look at the NBA MVP race. There's still not a belief that Denver is going to be one of those teams. So, yeah, I mean, Keith, you and I went through, and went through where we picked 3 teams in the East, 3 teams in the West, and 3 teams I picked were Denver, the Clippers. If they were whole and healthy, they are not. And obviously the Phoenix Suns, because Durant changes everything. I mean, it just does. Because Durant, number one, Durant and Booker as a 1-2 combination are fantastic. Even though maybe the Suns don't love DeAndre Ayton, we know what he is, effectiveness down low, and it takes the pressure off Chris Paul because Paul showed time that there's not a lot of, pun intended, tread left on the tires with Chris Paul.
Am I crazy? And you can say that I am. Am I crazy to think that the Lakers can make a run in the playoffs?
No.
Okay.
But you do love, I know
I'm a LeBron guy.
You're a LeBron apologist. You are.
I'm a LeBron supporter. Okay. All right.
I'm not trying to insult you. My point being is that
I know I'm higher on LeBron than a lot of people are at this moment.
Well, yeah. And it's okay to want to see the all-time greats perform in the playoffs. It's okay because I think that brings everybody in. I mean, it just does. I think when you see the ratings the other day that the Iowa-Louisville women's NCAA game drew more fans than any NBA game this year for ESPN in the regular season, I mean, it tells you something. Number one is
Caitlin Clark is a stud. Is that what that
right?
tells
No
me?
doubt. I mean, Clark is a stud, and she's an all-time great. And who's the point guard number 10 on Louisville? Van something. I forget what her name is. But
Slith?
Yes, Van Slith, right?
Yeah.
So, and she is a polarizing NCAA player. Either you love her, and she plays each and every minute of every single game for the Louisville Cardinals. But, she's a heck of a player as well. No, you want to see the stars. The NBA wants to see LeBron go on a run. The NBA wants to see the Lakers do some damage in the postseason because If LeBron is there, that means more eyeballs are going to be on this on the set. I mean, if you have an NBA, if you have a Western Conference final that includes LeBron James, it's going to significantly outrate a Western Conference final that is Denver Sacramento. I mean, it's not even going to be. It's not going to even be close. And not to knock those teams. It's just a matter of what LeBron is and what he has accomplished as a player.
I think the dream scenario for the NBA would be any variation of Lakers versus Suns, Lakers versus Clippers, Lakers versus Warriors.
Oh, no
any
doubt.
of those would be the dream scenarios.
Yeah. Lakers,
and
Suns.
you
Lakers.
could do Warriors versus Suns also. Like, that would work. But I'm just saying, like, if the Lakers were the dream scenario, any of those three opponents would be perfect for a Western Conference final.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, Lakers, Warriors would be something Silver in the NBA would sign up on the dotted line right now.
You want to talk like legacy, the commercials you do, legacies on the line. LeBron James looking to make it back to the NBA finals.
No question.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be utterly amazing. So that's it. I think any combination, if you have either Lakers or Golden State in the Western Conference Finals, I think they'd be happy. Because the Warriors, because of, I mean, they're a brand. Curry's a brand. Klay Thompson's a brand. We've watched Golden State, love them or like them. People, look at, Draymond Green, and, he can be as I mentioned, polarizing figure. He can certainly be a polarizing figure as well. But Golden State trying to win back-to-back NBA titles would be a huge storyline as well.
It would be massive. And Wally, by the way, I don't understand people that say they want to see LeBron miss the playoffs. I think the playoffs are better when your greats are in it. I understand you saying you want him to lose. Like, if you say I want him, LeBron James, to lose in the playoffs, but I think you want the greats to be a part of things, don't you? Unless you just hate the guy.
I would. Yeah. I mean, I get the people might grow tired of LeBron James. I could understand that. I mean, I could, because I think people grew tired of Michael Jordan at the end of his career. I do. And we look back on it and people are going to say, no, when you lived and went through it at the time, I think people probably grew tired of the narrative Michael Jordan. And I think people grow tired of the narrative when you look at LeBron James. But even with that, I think the playoffs are stronger when the great players, the all-time greats, are a part of it. You don't want to see those guys on the outside looking in if their teams don't qualify to make it into the postseason. I'm talking about into the body of it as well. I'm not talking about the play-in tournament 7 through 10. I'm talking about getting through the play-in tournament if you're a part of that, or being a top six seed in each conference.
10-game slate tonight, and we'll show a little bit of New York love. We know a lot of our followers are New York fans. The Knicks are 43-33. They take on the Heat at 40-36. The Knicks right now are in the 5th spot. A win tonight against the Heat, it doesn't lock up the 5th spot, but it's getting really, really close to locking up that 5th spot, because they would move further ahead of the Heat, and they would at least keep themselves 2.5, 3.5 games above the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, that would be right. I mean, it would be huge. And the Knicks have coming back, and Brunson's missed 10 games this year. I think they're now 11. I think they're 6-5 through those games. IQ has been great. We talked about IQ be
40 points, huh? Yeah,
40 points the other night, potentially being the 6th man of the year in the association. He's been.
You nailed that, by the way. We both say a lot of things on the air, and I'm going to interrupt you, but you nailed that. And I wasn't sold on Emmanuel Quickley as the 6th man. I was leaning Malcolm Brogdon. I think you're right. I think Quickley's going to end up winning it.
I think he is. And I think based on, it's also kind of similar to Embiid, the way that Embiid's closing out the year and the way that IQ is closing out the season as well. And he's not a traditional 6th man because he's closing games out. And but he is he's been great. I mean, now you know why the reluctance of the Knicks to include him in any kind of a package when they were talking about Donovan Mitchell. And you've seen him. He's an absolute gym rat. He works on his game consistently. Great teammate, great team player. Offensively, he's shown you the ability to score in a lot of different ways, even though the jumper coming out of Kentucky was probably the best thing that people were most excited about when he was leaving the Wildcats and joining the association. But IQ's been great, as has Brunson when he's been healthy, and huge bounce back year for Julius Randle. But yeah, the Heat are just one of those teams, but it is a huge game tonight, and the Knicks would help themselves in a lot of different ways if they were to beat Miami this evening.
First 4 spots already locked up. Knicks are inching in on the 5th. In the West, you've got just the Nuggets and the Grizzlies. The Kings are inching in on clinching their spot at number 3. It's funny. Everybody, like you say, everybody and their mother is saying you want to get the 6th seed because you're going to probably play the Kings in the first round, and everyone thinks that the Kings can be had in the first because they can't play defense. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how that one plays out. We are going to talk some NFL, and I know you're going to be without me in hour number 2. So I do want to get your take on something.
And then you're off tomorrow.
I am. Yeah, we got Better's Eye at noon tomorrow. It's just impossible for me to do the show.
I can't wait. And now are you going to be in studio tomorrow for Better's Eye?
No, so I'm in studio today, which is why I got to get off the air at 11 because I got to be in the car by 11:15, 11:20. I got to get to Secaucus. We got to tape. We're taping some promo stuff today.
Nice.
At like 1:30, 2 o'clock, and then it's Stryker and I taping some promo stuff, and then on the show today we got Sharapan, we got Jastremski, and we got Claudia Bellafata. We're doing a 1-hour Better's Eye preview show. It'll be live 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. on MLB Network.
That's great. And then tomorrow it's from home
at noon. Tomorrow from home.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
There you go.
And then I'm also hosting this weekend on Saturday. I'm doing Big Inning from 3 to 5:30, I think it is. I think we're a 2.5 hour window. And that's essentially like NFL Red Zone. Big Inning. And we've ramped it up a little bit this year. Big Inning's going to be awesome. You can see it on a whole bunch of different platforms, including all your like Apple TV, Apple platform stuff. And we usually do like a live look into 2 games.
Right.
This year, apparently, we're going to be able to do up to 6 games at a time. Like, we're going to do boxes where, like, I can be talking about, I don't know, Brewers and Cardinals, top left of your screen. And then on the bottom right side of your screen, you'll see the Mets and the Phillies, and you see all these games. And I can then talk about each game while they're on.
Now, that's similar to the Red Zone.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
So,
cool.
Big Inning's been around so Strike Zone was the first one. And Strike Zone still exists. That's going to be Wednesdays and Fridays. But Big Inning now is going to be hosted mostly by Matt Yaloff Monday through Friday. I'll do that every once in a while, and then they need me and Adnan Verkel do the weekend sometimes. That's
cool. That's great.
Yeah.
Adnan, we got to get him on. We hadn't had Adnan on in a while. We have to get him on. We'd even do our post Oscars wrap.
I know. Yeah. He and congratulations to Adnan Verk. So the last couple of years, he's been kind of bouncing from show to show. He is officially, it was announced yesterday, and I knew this already, but he was officially announced yesterday. He is the 6 p.m. host of MLB Tonight on MLB Network, Monday through Friday. It's him and Harold Reynolds every night.
That's fantastic. Good for him. Well deserved.
Yeah. A few shakeups in the lineup at MLB Network, and our buddy Ariel Epstein is now going to be on Off Base Monday through Friday. That show won't always be Monday through Friday because they sometimes get preempted by baseball games on the network.
What time's that show on? 3?
4 p.m.
4 p.m.
So you got Lauren Gardner. She's the main host. LG Red. She's amazing. Xavier Scruggs, former player, and Ariel Epstein. Those are the 3 mainstays. Our Cody Decker is going to be on that show. A bunch of other people will be on that show. Then you got Intentional Talk because Steven Nelson took the job with the LA Dodgers. Now it's Sierra Santos, Ryan Dempster, and Kevin Millar. They're going to do that show 5 to 6. And then Am Singer and Plesac do the nighttime MLB Tonight, like the after the game stuff, 10 o'clock usually.
Beautiful. Well, I'll miss you hour 2, and I'll miss you all day tomorrow, but we'll be back together Friday.
Thank you. Hey, so what did you think of Bronny yesterday? Did you watch any of the McDonald's All-American game? You could be honest.
I did not.
All right. He looked so good last night.
I mean, I saw some highlights. I did not watch the game. I used to love the McDonald's All-American game, but I did not watch it. I did not watch it last night.
I watched the dunk contest the night before. It was good. Bronny did not win that. The McDonald's All-American game last night, crazy talent there. Kentucky's got 4 of the top 20 kids or whatever it is, all signed, sealed, and delivered. Duke's got like 2 or 3 of them. Bronny was the only player not, committed to a university. Apparently,
where's he going to go?
I don't know. So the offers right now that he has on the table officially are Memphis, Ohio State, USC, Oregon. It appears USC is probably the leader in the clubhouse if he chooses to go the college route. He could go and play in whatever that NBL is in Australia. He could also do the G League Ignite. There are options for him. But the reason
go to college for at least a year and just enjoy
so
that experience.
I think he's going to probably.
I go to Australia.
Yeah, I think he's going to go to USC. And I do. I think he'll end up in USC. Did you see the NIL value for him? This is sick. Bleacher Report put it out. And his NIL value.
Guess.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead. Guess it.
So it's got to be unbelievable. So it's got to be 7 figures.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 1.5 mil.
He is valued at $7.2 million.
Oh my God.
So he could go to USC. In theory, he could tell them, don't waste a scholarship on me. Make me a walk-on. He won't, but he could. And he could get his NIL value of like $7.2 million. Also, you know, the LeBron James family has money. I don't know if you knew that, but the James family has some money.
I think they can. I think they can afford college.
Yeah, they can afford college, and then he can go to USC and beat his backyard
up at night, worrying about college costs.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, the article I pulled up.
Yeah.
Let me pull this back up for you. So, Bronny James, his value is worth $7.2 million. That is the number one player in the McDonald's All-American game. The next highest value, and again, this is On3. It's a company that is like the guy Pete Nakos. Like this is his thing. He goes through NIL valuation on players. The next highest player is Jared McCain, who's headed to Duke at $1.2 million.
Nice.
So crazy.
I mean, do you think he's really worth? I mean, God bless. I mean, 7.2
No, he's not. But he has seen his rankings rise, right? Like he came into the year, he was a top 100 player.
Well, LeBron's youngest son is considered to be the best of the bunch, right?
Yeah, because Bronny's 6'3", Bryce is already 6'5". They think he's going to probably be more like 6'7".
Yeah. Okay.
But Bronny, like, if you see, he's filling out. Like, he's muscular now.
Yeah.
He's 6'3", can jump through the roof. And we also know that he's got a legit jumper. I mean, 5 for 8 last night shooting threes. He didn't start the game. He finished the game. He was in the game at the end of the game. I think the sky is the limit for him. We're now starting to see some projections for the 2024 draft would be the one that he's available for, that people are saying he's a first-round pick now.
Oh, good. Well, that's good. I mean, it'll be better than Michael's son who went to Illinois.
Yeah, neither of his sons did well, right?
No, not really.
Yeah.
I mean,
they both played.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's great. I think the interest is great. It'll be interesting to see where he decides to go. I wouldn't keep Oregon out of the mix. Oregon, obviously, you know, Nike, Phil Knight, great program, great facilities. You know, the Ducks are, if you're going to go to a program for a year and you're going to go on the idea that Bronny's going to be in college for a year and then go to the NBA, I would not cross Oregon. I mean, Penny Hardaway in Memphis, he's recruited a lot of top talent to the Memphis Tigers, and he's been a top AAU coach. So, but do I think he's going to leave the West Coast to go to Memphis? Probably not. Oregon would be a team. I think you're probably right. USC. I think
it's going to be USC or the G League Ignite.
You're really going to, why not? I mean, I don't know at that stage, but listen, I'm not a top notch high school basketball. Why not go to college instead of going to the G League?
Let me ask you a question. Do you want to do schoolwork? Maybe you don't. Maybe you want to do, I mean, I know. No,
I get it, but you're not going to, he's not going to be there 4 years. He's not going to be there 3 years. You're talking about 1 year, just the life experience of being on a college campus and experiencing that, even if you live off campus, just the experience, all of that. And honestly, he's not even going to be on campus for an entire year. He'll get there in August. And once you declare and the NCAA tournament is done, come April, they're all gone.
What if you get exposed in college as not being NBA ready and he is stuck there for 2 or 3 years? If he gets exposed in the G League Ignite, his excuse would be, I wasn't getting the time. It was playing against men. So that's why my numbers were a little bit lower, but I was like, I don't know.
For sure.
I could see the Ignite thing happening.
You might be right. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm totally off. Maybe
I would go to USC. I'm with you. I would go to USC. That's what I would do.
I would test the college. I have a hard time thinking that he's going to get exposed to that level.
I don't think he will. I think he'll be fine.
To the idea that he's had this kind of experience, this kind of focus already. You know, you mentioned the athleticism, and he might not be as good as his younger brother, but still, I don't know if I'd use the term exposed. Maybe he's not as he's gonna listen. It's one and done, no matter what, no matter where he goes, because
he will be on an NBA roster 2 years from now,
no doubt. And because the draw is also going to be that LeBron potentially could come calling to that organization at some point when young Bronny joins them.
Yeah. I'll leave you with this because I got to bounce.
Yeah.
I might have been right about the Jets and Rodgers, right? We're going to just swap 13 and 15. And then if they can get that whole stipulation thing in there about the future draft pick, I think the deal will get
right.
done.
So it'd be 13, swapping 13 and 15, the second round pick this year, and then another second round pick in 25, right?
Yeah, it looks like either a second or a third round pick, but the Jets want some sort of stipulation that if Rodgers retires, we don't have to give you that pick.
Right.
Correct. And I think the Packers are saying, I don't want to do that. So really, it's just them figuring that out.
Right. It's figuring whether because the Packers are going to say, well, if you get more than 1 year of Aaron Rodgers, then the value of us trading him to you is going to be worth more. So there's that stipulation. So yeah, you could be right. You were onto something yesterday.
I hope so.
I poo-pooed it and you were on target.
Hey, I like being right every once in a while. You got Pat Perry coming up?
Pat Perry, Jastremski is going to join us 11:30.
All right. Tell JJ that I'll see him later.
He's
this
off
afternoon.
to Vegas this weekend. Are you going to talk about that on MLB Network with him?
Probably not.
No.
Nah.
He's got a big bachelor party this weekend.
Yeah,
but like 30 guys going.
Right. We have like 7 minutes with each guest.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
It's quick spots. And they got to get all of their futures in with us, like all of their picks that they want on the record. I don't know if JJ and Sharapan even know this, but we, since there are 2 regulars, we're going to be keeping track of their picks.
Oh,
they're going to be battling each other. They don't even know that. Don't tell them that.
I won't tell them that.
Don't tell
all
them.
Right. Well, have a good show today, and we'll talk to you on Friday at 10.
Yeah, we'll do it again Friday. Good luck with the car, man.
All right, you got it. Thank you.
All right, later.
I need it. Yeah, we'll be heading out over to Town Fair Tire probably in the next couple of days to go get some tires. I don't know. What a disaster. We'll come back. We'll talk a little golf. Pat Perry from Tour Junkies will join us. It's Moose and Keith with you on a Wednesday right here, Better Sports Network.
Talk Sports with Lisa Ann and Rick Kamla, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Better Sports Network.
Let me say something about Tiger. You know, Tiger has had to redesign his entire swing. Tiger has a difference in the length of his legs because of that horrible accident. You know, in golf, there's no like, hey, you can't walk the greens. You have to take a cart. So I assumed by day 3 on Sunday, the inflammation would start. He took a couple breaks where they take care of his back a little bit, but it is fascinating watching him. So it gave me this thought, like, is he that skilled at golf? Or is this a mental thing of dedication and determination? He is so dedicated to the sport that no matter what, he's relentless to it. And the dedication and determination goes to the golf, the swing, the playing, the walking, but it goes to his overall health. The average person who doesn't stay in great shape, gets in an accident like that, goes through multiple surgeries, is not recovering and going out there to walk. And that course has some pretty steep inclines, a lot of walking. I mean, how else could you factor in these athletes, the Michael Jordans, the LeBrons, these players that just, their whole focus is really optimal health, optimal body skills, optimal. And then what comes next is being the best at what they do.
I think you just hit on why Tiger still has that drive. I don't know this. I don't know the man. It could just be love of the game. It could be, I want to make as much money as I can while playing. Could be all this stuff. But LA, a lot of people think Tiger Woods is the GOAT of golf. And I don't understand how you can be the GOAT of golf when you are 3 majors short of Jack Nicklaus. Okay? So, like LeBron, I don't think he cares what guys like me say anymore, right? He's past Kareem. He thinks he's the GOAT. I mean, he's 3rd on my list. He's in the debate. Many other people think he's the GOAT. He's not my GOAT. You know what I mean? So I wonder if Tiger is there, like LeBron, like, I don't care what the pundits, what the barbershops say. I'm the GOAT. I don't have to do anything more. This is all gravy. I wonder if Tiger looks at it that way.
I don't know what Tiger's mindset is in the GOAT status, but when players talk about what it's like to be at a tournament, when Tiger's playing versus when he's not, they'll tell you that they're on the greens and they can hear the roar 4 holes over, and that there is nothing that compares to the excitement of when he's present.
Better Sports Live. Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific, exclusively on Better Sports Network. Or listen whenever you want on the app with BSN On Demand.
Mac, I'm gone now.
Moose and Keith on Better Sports Network.
On a Wednesday, let's welcome aboard right now Pat Perry from Tour Junkies. What's going on, Pat? Nice hat, brother. I love the shirt with the Masters logo. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing? We got the Masters next week, and I only get a few appearances on here since DB does most of it with you guys. So I got to represent Augusta here as we head into the Masters.
How is your, you live down south, you live down in Georgia, so there's never really a golf off season. You can play year round, but let me ask you, how do you keep yourself and your golf game in order during the off season?
Well, you're right. There isn't a whole lot of off season here. So to me, it's really just, I try to get out on the range if I can get it over 50 degrees, because I'm one of these guys that if it's under 50 degrees, I'm not going outside on the golf course. I'm just not doing this. So the main thing we do is that. You know what we don't have here, Moose, is we don't have a whole lot of indoor facilities for golf at all. Like not a lot of places you can go where they have simulators and things like that. So it's tough to actually get some swings in. Unless you just...
Pat, can I ask you how effective are those? Because I go, my kids, they all play like hockey. There's a great place by us, Chelsea Piers, right? And there's one in the city, one in Stamford, Connecticut, where I live, and they have an unbelievable golf simulator. And you'll go in December and January, and you'll see dads and sons going there to where you can order food and drink, and they have 6 or 7 areas where you can pick a course and take out your clubs, and they'll have golf instructors, and they'll have how much do simulators help your game?
Well, I think they can help you a lot, especially from getting to know your numbers and seeing what your distances are for your irons and that kind of stuff. The key is kind of what you're talking about is, what kind of system are they using? So TrackMan is something you see a lot of on tour. That's what the PGA Tour uses for a lot of their stuff to give you, swing tracks and the ball flight and all that kind of stuff. Most of those type simulators that you're talking about, where you can go have a few drinks and you've got these private bays, you've got instruction, those are actually pretty good. The bad ones are like Topgolf. If you're going to Topgolf to try and figure out and work on your game, it's not the place to go.
What do you mean? Shooting at targets doesn't help.
No, it's not going to help you. And they also have a terrible system as far as tracking your golf ball and all that kind of stuff. It's not very good. So I would say stay away from. Have fun. I mean, I love Topgolf. It's fun, but don't be working on your game at Topgolf. It's just not going to happen.
But the ones with the bays, the ones I'm talking about, can really help you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, Pat. Let's talk about impressions early on here when you're looking at the PGA Tour and LIV as well. What has struck you here? We're a week out from the Masters, and we're going to have a lot of coverage. You guys on Tour Junkies are going to have a lot of coverage, obviously. Who doesn't love the Masters? But what has been your impressions early on here on the PGA Tour?
Well, I think we've had a great season so far. I mean, it's been fantastic. Even the non-elevated events have been very good as far as just the action that we've seen. We've seen guys like Chris Kirk win, guys get their first tour victory, like Taylor Moore, who I had on my betting card at 50-1. We saw almost a Rory versus Scheffler matchup in the championship for match play last week. Although DB liked that because he had both Sam Burns and Cam Young on his betting card, and they were in the final, so he had the nuts there. But it's been a good season. I'm very interested to see what happens with some of the LIV guys that are going to be in the Masters next week. And the LIV Tour is playing this week in Orlando. So I'm kind of interested to see what those guys are doing. And here's kind of just a quick list of some of them that are going to be playing on the LIV Tour this week and then in the Masters next week. You got Cam Smith, of course, DJ, who's won the Masters. Bubba will be there. Joaquin Neiman, HV3, Sergio, Patrick Reed, Bryson, all of those guys are in the Masters next week. So I kind of want to see how they play this week because we just haven't seen them all that much. And to be honest, a lot of those big names on LIV have been terrible so far this year. So I want to kind of see how the big names play in that event this week.
Pat, one kind of playing off that answer is do you think that when you look at the big name players on the LIV Tour, because there's not as much on the line, Like everyone gets paid. There's no cuts. I understand there's a differentiation between finishing first and finishing last in the LIV Tour. But do you think that's why you have not seen a star-studded, leaderboard final round after 3 rounds on the LIV Tour?
I totally agree with that. I mean, I think there can be a huge case that's made for that. In my opinion, it's been that way all along. I've always said I think some of these bigger name guys, if they're not playing in a major and they're just playing and the money's going to be there regardless, I just don't see how they have that drive to win or do anything else. So, but here's what I think. I think actually you'll see this week in this week's event, some of these top names play better because they know they got to be sharp for the Masters next week. But I do agree. I think there's just not a whole lot to play for. And I got to be honest, I think some of them would rather be back on the tour. I don't think they've said it. I think we've heard rumors like Brooks. There's a rumor that Brooks wants to be back on the tour. But if they see the action that we've seen on the PGA Tour, Tiger coming back at the Genesis a few weeks ago, he'll be there at the Masters next week. I think some of them have been, a little bit jealous. And I've seen some rumblings that they haven't exactly been happy with how things have been going on LIV so far. So we'll see what happens there.
Well, Pat, and then you couple that with the story that came out yesterday, and maybe if there's a lot to it, but how about the fact that some of the LIV golfers, if you decide to leave, whatever signing bonus you got, you have to pay a penalty that's 2 to 4 times more than the signing bonus you got to join LIV Tour.
Yeah, I did not see that yet, but doesn't surprise me with the way LIV is operating. I mean, how
can you possibly leave if you got $50 million? If you got $50 million, what are you going to pay? 200? You're stuck. You're not going anywhere.
Yeah, you're absolutely stuck. And I think some of these guys I feel like there's a little bit of a bait and switch. There's the way the setups were last year were a lot different. They had told them they were going to have less events. Well, now they're being committed to more events. They've accelerated a lot of things this year on LIV. So I think there's some grumblings going along with the players, but again, there may not be anything they can do. So.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the Valero Texas Open, which is going this week. First and foremost, I asked Barnett, you guys are, and you're great with it, Pat, the course. For those that are kind of like looking at the course, who does this course favor when you're looking at this event a week out, obviously, before the Masters?
Well, there's a few things with this course because you see a lot of different types of winners here. We do see long shots win. And part of the reason for that is because the last few years it's fallen right before the Masters, so you haven't gotten your top names play, or when they have played, they've withdrawn, like Hideki. He did that last year. He's in the field this year, has not withdrawn yet. He could. But it is a ball striker's golf course. This is a guy where, tee to green, you need to hit fairways. They're not that hard to hit, but you do need to hit the fairways because you got to be good on approach. So I think that's going to be important. And also scrambling, I think, is another one. So we see guys like Corey Connors won here a few years ago to get into the Masters. Great ball striker. Not a fantastic putter, but a great ball striker. He's really who fits the mold that you see win here. Charlie Hoffman's a guy that's won here. Another fantastic ball striker. So guys like that. J.J. Spahn won here last year to get into the Masters. Another guy that just hits a lot of fairway, hits a lot of greens, and just needs to get hot with the putter. So pretty simple event. Nothing like too difficult. Nothing, crazy about this golf tournament. But I do think we could see some long shots win. So we'll see what happens there.
All right, before we get into some picks, Pat, the other interesting thing about this event is if you've not qualified for the Masters, this is it. This is your last chance. A lot of people are looking at Ricky Fowler. He's sitting there, 15, 17 to 1, whatever it is, to win this tournament because he hasn't qualified for next week. So that's the last, kind of cherry on the top when you look at this tournament is if you're not qualified yet, if you win this tournament and it's only the winner, then you're going to be playing next week at Augusta.
Yep, absolutely. And Ricky Fowler's who's everybody's looking at this week, and I'm all in on it. I'm all in on Ricky Fowler. I don't care what his odds are. I'm still going to bet him because I just want him to get in the Masters so bad, and he's just he was so close to getting in because last week is when they cut off the rankings. So if you weren't in the top 50 in the world after match play last week, then you did not get in. So he's one of those that's right on the cusp, but I'd love to see win. Taylor Montgomery's another one that's in that, not quite in that top 50 that I think has a chance to win this week. That's as far as the favorites are concerned.
Where's Fowler's game right now? Because it dropped off. He lost his swing. Like we were having a conversation with Dave last week. I'm sure you and Dave talk about it all the time. Like it's amazing how golfers can go from being, top 10, top 15, and then 2-3 years later, if it's not injury, they could just like lose their swing, lose their touch, lose their feel, whatever it might be. And you saw that because, correct me if I'm wrong, Pat, didn't Fowler revamp something with his swing and just couldn't find it consistently again, right?
He did. He got very inconsistent, went to a new coach, a guy that we know quite well. And I wouldn't say that coach messed him up. It just he just sort of lost his swing during that time period. We saw this with Jordan Spieth. I mean, this isn't unusual, like you said, when in the game of golf. Jordan Spieth lost it for almost a full 2 years and then got it back just a couple years ago. And now he's playing back, pretty much where he was, just hasn't won majors. Fowler's kind of the same thing. He lost his swing for a few years. Now this year, and really we saw signs in the fall because he had a top 5 finish in the fall at the CJ Cup. And then now he's been playing great this year. He's back with Butch Harmon, who was his original coach when he was playing well. And his game is good. His ball striking is fantastic. So Ricky Fowler has been on the cusp all season long. I was surprised he actually didn't get into that top 50 in the world after last week. He beat Jon Rahm in the first round of the match play. So, we know Jon Rahm. He's pretty good, I think. So
I think Rahm's pretty good.
If he can beat Jon Rahm, head to head, then I would say his game's probably just about back to where he needs it to be. So, would not be surprised to see Ricky win at all. Or, if it doesn't happen this week and he doesn't get in the Masters, that's fine. I think he's heading towards a victory, though, this year.
Oh, that's good. That's good to know about Fowler because he's one of the more likable guys on the PGA Tour and is clearly one of those guys that a lot of people do root for. We're chatting with Pat Perry here, Tour Junkies. All right, Pat, give us some picks here. When we look at the Valero Texas Open, who do you like this weekend when the tournament gets going tomorrow?
Well,
outside of Fowler sitting there at 17-1.
Yeah, Fowler right there at 17-1. I think if you're looking at like top 20s, I think are something that I'm big on for this week. Corey Connors is a guy that I mentioned earlier, who's won here before. He's plus 120 to finish in the top 20. He's minus 110 on a lot of books. So if you can get him plus 120, I think that's where you look. Chris Kirk, we just saw him win at the Honda Classic a few weeks ago. He's plus 140 as a top 20. Couple guys though on some longer odds here in the top 20. Nikolai Højgaard. Okay, remember that name. He's a European Tour player. He almost won last week at Corrales, which was the off-field event besides match play. He was second place there, but he's plus 240 as a top 20. And then another guy, Harry Hall. He's also a big Englishman, wears a crazy hat and all that kind of stuff. Harry Hall. He looks like a golfer, okay? I'm just telling you, look him up. Looks like a golfer. He is plus 450 to finish in the top 20. He's had 2 top 20s though in his past 3 events. Okay, so plus 450, I think is a good number there. And then I may have a few first round leaders I can throw out if you're.
Yeah, let's hear it. Absolutely, I'm all ears. What do you got first round?
Couple guys here I think you look at. One is Brendan Todd, one of the best ball strikers in the field. He's a Georgia Bulldog. People think, I do tend to lean towards my Georgia Bulldogs, but he's been playing well. Also, he's 60-1 as a first round leader. Ben Martin. Playing great right now. Now, it's not always in the best fields. He's tended to play well in like last week at Corrales and some of those type of events, but he's 80-1. And then here's a long shot for you. Lonto Griffin is 100-1 first round leader. I saw him actually last week. He played in the Corn Ferry, which is the right below PGA Tour. He's kind of getting medical starts. He's just coming back. He was first round leader last week here in Savannah at that event. And so he's back on the tour this week. He's 100-1 to win to be the first round leader. I like that as well, just the way his form is.
All right, Pat, I want to ask you about next week, the Masters. How much do you lean into, clearly, I mean, the top golfers aren't playing in the Valero Texas Open, but what do you think we should be keeping an eye on next week when we're getting ready for the first major of the year down in Augusta?
Well, I think there's a few things. I mean, the biggest thing with Augusta is if we're just looking at like who we want to bet on, course history is huge, more so than any other golf course that we see all year long. Okay, this is why like Freddie Couples was 50-something years old and like going for his
he knows how to play the course.
Yeah, he knows how to play the course. You got to have experience at Augusta. It's just the way it is. We have not seen a first-time winner there since Fuzzy Zeller back in 1977, I believe. So, first-timers are not guys that I typically want to bet on Now I may look at like top 20s or top 40s or something like that, but you're probably not going to get good odds anyway. So I just don't like first time winners or first time players as being outrights. But I do look at course history a lot because I think it's important. This is a golf course when you just look at the slopes that are around the greens, the way you got to approach them from the fairways. It's just a whole different ball game if you've never played there before. So I think that's one of the main things you got to look at.
And one of the big storylines, or a couple of them. Let's start with the second, then get to the big one, which is obviously Tiger Woods. How about McIlroy? Are we going to look back, Pat, when McIlroy, blew that final round huge lead, and he was a lot younger, obviously, but everyone thought he was destined to greatness. Is this going to be the one that he never gets down in Augusta? Because I always feel like it's going to be a year for Rory, because his game when he's on, there's really not a course that can match it. I mean, he's hitting the ball, what was it, 360 yards a couple days ago on a par 4 and driving the green. What about Rory's chances at Augusta next week?
Rory's chances are always good. And listen, you're hitting me right in the heart here, because he's literally my favorite player on tour.
I love him. He's nothing not to like. He's great.
Yeah, I'd love to see him win the Masters.
But he disappoints. Like, he hasn't won a major. Pat, he hasn't won a major in like 8 years.
I know, and I just hope that he's not like Greg Norman, who didn't, never got that Masters victory when he should.
I love Norman too growing up.
Yeah, I feel like Rory is got his game where he wants it to be right now. Now, a few weeks ago, he didn't at the Players, but you can't look at the Players with Augusta National. It's a totally different golf course. It's just not even the same, and his driver wasn't working. Well, it was last week. If you saw that whole 18 where he drove the green last week to about 3 feet, Rory's got the driver back in play. He's got a new putter he's working with that he loves. It's a Scotty Cameron that he's a big fan of. He likes what he can do with it. So I do think Rory has a great chance to win. He just can't. He's got to get off to a good start. That's the problem that Rory has had.
Can't bury himself on the first day.
Yes, he is always having a bad first day, and then he's having to just like climb out of the hole. Where like last year he had the best round he's ever had at Augusta. He probably could have backdoored in and won it, but the thing was if he hadn't gotten that hole. So we really got to see what Rory does in that first round. But if he has a good first round, look out. I think you could definitely see him win.
Now, obviously the big story is going to be Tiger. I mean, there's nobody that compares to Tiger on the PGA Tour in terms of interest level. When he's there on the final round, everybody's locked in across America. We all know that. What do you expect from Tiger next week at Augusta? Well,
I think, Tiger, if anybody knows how to play that golf course, it's Tiger Woods. And
no doubt.
In general, it is a pretty hilly walk. If you've ever been out there, it's very slopey, especially if you walk out at the clubhouse. It basically drops straight down to Amen Corner. So it can be a little bit tough on him. But I think with just the way he knows the course and the things that you have to do to great there, he does all of them. He is a great ball striker. He's a good putter. I think his driver is just fine these days. So I would expect a little more than you saw at the Genesis, which he actually surprised me. I didn't think he was going to make the cut at the Genesis, and he made the cut. I don't expect him to win or be in contention, but I think he does make the cut, and I think you could probably see him somewhere in maybe in the top 20 or something like that. Show us some good Tiger moments out there, but I'm not expecting a win at all, at least this year. If he stays healthy, maybe next year we could see him do something there.
Pat, do you think we ever see Tiger win on the tour again?
I do.
You do?
Absolutely.
I think major?
I don't know about a major, but I could see him winning. I definitely think he could. I think as he continues to get stronger, continues to get better, we've seen a lot of players win, later in their careers. And he gets to pick and choose whatever events he wants to play in. And if he's playing, he's trying to win. He says that all the time. And I don't think that's just him talking. Like, he's trying to win. And so I believe he can still win on tour.
All right, Pat. So what do you got coverage next week? Because it's a huge week for golf, or for Tour Junkies. What do you and Dave got cooked up?
Yeah, we got a ton of stuff coming up next week. One thing I'll mention, JT Poston came on. We did an interview with him. This is going to be his second Masters that he's played in. He played pretty well in match play. Couldn't quite get it done against Scotty Scheffler in the quarterfinals, but we got JT Poston coming on the show this week. He gives us some great insight on the course, because there have been some changes this year, and that's something we haven't talked about yet, but there's been a few changes especially 13. That's one that's been backed up and made longer. So he talks about some of the changes. He got to play there about a month ago. So that'll be important to listen to. So we have him on our show. Hey, Lisa Ann is coming on again, part of the Better Sports Network. We're going to do Junkies Court with her. So that'll be coming out with probably later this weekend, maybe first part of next week. DB and I are going to have our picks. So we're going to present our cases for two guys that we like as outright bets. And then Lisa Ann's going to judge and tell us who the winner is. I won last time. So, we'll see.
Dave is looking. So did Lisa vote with you or Dave?
She voted with me. So I was I won the case, and it was Jason Day who actually did perform better than his player. This was for the Players Championship, but did not win. So we got that coming out as well next week. I think that's going to be fantastic. She's great, as you know. She is awesome. So it's going to be a good time with her. And then we'll of course have all our regular stuff coming out next week. Our Chalk Bomb email. Everything that we typically do for Tour Junkies. So we're excited. It's a big week for us. We're going to be recording early. I'm going to be at DB's house in Augusta on Sunday doing all our recording and everything else. So we're excited.
All right, Pat, final one from you. Fantastic. Love chatting with you whenever you're able to make yourself available and talk a little golf. This weekend, we got top 20s, we got first round, kind of some long shots to look at. I know you're rooting for Ricky Fowler to kind of win and get himself to Augusta next week. If I'd ask you one play for this weekend at Valero, ride or die, one play, what would it be? As an outright winner? Sure.
All right. My one play, I mentioned this guy earlier, is Brendan Todd. He is 48-1. I love him as an outright. I mentioned him already as a top 20, but I think Brendan Todd can get it done. He has been playing great, kind of sneaky good lately. So he's the guy that I would look at.
Pat, you're awesome. Appreciate it. You and Dave do a great job on Tour Junkies. Always great. Talk a little golf. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. And thanks for the time. And we'll talk to you guys next week.
All right. Thank you, sir. Always happy to join you.
You got it, Pat. We'll talk to JJ. John Jastremski will join us next. I think he's heading out to Vegas for the Final Four. We'll get his thoughts on what he thinks of the national semifinals, do a little baseball preview as well. JJ joins the program. It's Moose and Keith with you on a Wednesday right here, Better Sports Network.
Talk about your picks and your fantasy teams on Better Sports Network.
The importance of checking out the site that you're playing on. Default rankings of these sites. A lot of times they don't get updated. I know from experience. I used to write default rankings for the NFBKC, the basketball version of the NFBC. I'd write these default rankings in June for the NBA, before the NBA draft, before free agency opened up. And guess what? I was never asked to write an update article or update the default rankings. This happens a lot. Maybe if there's something obvious, it gets updated. Aaron Judge, for some reason, hurts his back. Maybe they make that change. Just maybe. But you don't know that. And that's why it's just so important that you show up to your draft room or you do that pre-draft prep. We're all busy. We know we're about to devote a lot of time to our fantasy baseball drafts. Why not spend the extra 20 to 25 minutes to invest properly in your team? To go and see which of those players are way down default rankings. They're going to be different on all of these sites, and you're going to be looking at them and going, maybe their analysts think a certain player who shouldn't be in the top 100, who should be maybe even not even the top 200, will be in that top 100. You got to check that out. You got to know where you're playing, just like you got to know your format when you sign up for the league. It's just so crucial, and people just skip right over it. You think it's cool to show up to the draft room 3 minutes before the draft. Well, number one, it's not cool because the commissioner's trying to make sure it is organized, especially me, who runs auctions. You can't, it's one thing if someone doesn't show up for the snake draft. Oh, well, doesn't ruin it for everyone. Auctions, you can't have someone not show up. Auto bidding, auto auctioning, it ruins the sanctity of those drafts. I always recommend, hey, make it easy on your commissioner. Don't make them send those texts there. It's annoying. You shouldn't have to do that. Don't wait till the last minute and get in there about 20, 25 minutes before so you can just look up and down the entire default rankings list so you can make a queue out of that, Ron. And the reason I keep saying this is because people still show up 2-3 minutes before the draft, and that's it. In fact, in one of my auctions, people were asking me where certain players were, and I go, did you search their name? No, I just got in. Well, that's no excuse right there. That's your own fault. I mean, you're organized, so you're a hard person to ask here.
You're getting those questions. This is your preschool league, right? People don't know how to search player names.
People freak out. They don't think. That's the problem. Because they show up 2 minutes before the draft. That's why.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com. Weekdays at 5 Eastern on Better Sports Network. Moose and Keith on Better Sports Network.
Going to be joined here by JJ John Jastremski here momentarily. Check out his podcast. He's fantastic, working with Bill Simmons on a day in, day out basis. And love JJ. He's going to be heading out to Vegas for the national semifinals as well. The Final Four, or that he's going to be heading out to Vegas, but Final Four this weekend down in Houston between Florida Atlantic and San Diego State. And obviously, UConn and Miami is the other two. And that's going to be the nightcap on Saturday. And the more I think about, like, when look at college hoops and certainly look at the landscape of college basketball and looking at the transfer portal. And, I think what we have seen this year, Keith and I talked a little bit about it earlier in the week, but I think what we've seen this year and how crazy it was in the NCAA tournament, I do think it's a sign of things to come. I'm not taking anything away from Carolina, Kentucky, Duke, the Blue Bloods. You think about, the teams that you grew up watching, and when you first learned about college basketball, your dad, uncle, whoever might be, mom told you about. Well, these are the teams that are usually there year in and year out. It's all changed though with the one and dones, NIL deals. I think college basketball is completely and utterly changed. And I want to get the thoughts of JJ John Jastremski, who joins us now. Who check out his podcast, New York. It's great. He does an amazing job. I think he was joined by Michael Kay the other day. We'll get into that conversation. The voice of the Yankees. He just signed a long-term deal. He's going to be doing afternoons on ESPN radio as well. Good morning, JJ. Thanks for the time this morning, brother.
Moose, it's always a pleasure to see you, number one. Number two, lot cooking, man. Vegas in 24 hours. We got a Final Four this weekend. We got baseball season starting up. Fired up, man.
Let's start. Well, we'll get to the Vegas trip and what's on tap for that, because I was talking to Rosenberg from The Fan. You and I both know Paulie well, right? And I'm not going to be able to make it out there. You've got a plethora. You've got like 30 guys that are going out for your bachelor party this weekend. Is that correct?
So in waves, Moose, right? Like it is an extravaganza.
Rosenberg's flying out. Rosenberg's flying out tonight. He's not coming back.
Let's put it this way, Moose.
He's not coming back till Tuesday.
He's getting more time on his bachelor party than I am. So makes sense to that. I don't know.
So you're flying out tomorrow, and then when do you come home?
I am on the red eye after the national championship game on Monday night.
Okay, so you'll be home Tuesday morning.
Tuesday morning, 7 a.m. I'm going to be miserable. Guaranteed.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, no doubt. Okay, so give our audience a little bit of a feel about what's the game plan. Like, obviously you want to have a good time. We're going to be drinking, great restaurant. Where's the big boys dinner that you're going to? What restaurant are you guys hitting up in Vegas?
Well, I think you'll like this, Moose. Carbone, which has a spot in New York City. We're doing the big Friday night dinner there. We're going to hit Andiamo, the steakhouse, on Thursday. But there's a lot cooking, man. We got a couple of golf rounds planned. We got the big stadium swim hit for the Final Four on Saturday. Can't make a trip to Vegas without Encore Beach Club, the craps tables. Dude, I'm actually proud of the fact that we have a lot of things lined up, and it's not a total free-for-all for like 4 days.
That's good. Now, did you organize it? Who did you put in that in the hands of? The
so
best man?
Here's the problem, Moose. I had to organize it because there are too many moving parts. There are too many friend groups. One of my best men would not be able to handle this task. And I don't say that disrespectfully. It's too many people to manage. It's too many things to manage. So I kind of handle things myself, man. Sometimes you got to do it yourself.
Well, no, I agree with that, because you have different factions. You have completely at SNY, FAN, everything you do with your podcast. I mean, you've got, friends from Syracuse. You've got a number of guys that you grew up with. You've got a number of different factions, and you want to make sure who's the best person to organize it would be you.
If I trusted somebody else, I don't even know what would have happened, Moose. So at least it got done. Hopefully we survive Vegas in one piece. And Listen, it will be nice Thursday getting off the plane, and the Yankee game will be in like the top of the first inning. But, dude, the problem is, normally you'd be like, all right, I'll sit down at the book 3.5 hours. And you know me. I've said this on a pod. I've said it on SOY. I am team pitch clock. I love it. I think it's fantastic.
It's 2.5 hours in and out. Nobody gets hurt. I don't need to watch a 3.5 hour
But here's the problem, though, Moose. If I have some issues getting off the tarmac at JFK, I might be landing. It might be in the bottom of the fourth inning. So hopefully it all goes well there. We'll see.
Now, I haven't chatted with him in a good week. Is Halter making the trip? Our friend Alex
He's not. Alex in Newark, unfortunately, will not be with us. But I can tell you that the great Anthony in Syosset will be making an appearance.
Oh, the Greek is making it. That's good. There you go. I love that. John, I was talking about the tournament. Let's start there. Before we get into the craziness and get into a little bit of baseball with you, I think what we saw this year in the tournament is kind of a sign of things to come. NIL deals, one and dones, the transfer portal. I don't think guys and, college athletes are going to be patient hanging around in programs. You're seeing it, guys being picked off by programs in any given year. Just look at Nigel Pack, one of the guards for Miami. Got a 2-year, $600,000 deal with Miami and got a car as well to leave Kansas State and join the Hurricanes. I think the craziness, what we saw this year, you want to say was watered down NCAA men's basketball this season, but do you get a sense that maybe get used to this kind of what we saw this year in the tournament?
1,000%. And I heard Jim Larnaga talking about this yesterday. I'm getting ready. He's doing PTI. That's the world of college basketball now. The days, Moose, of guys staying multiple years at a program and seeing that program kind of flourish and develop. And this goes from not just like the big schools. I'm talking about the small mid-major schools too, because remember, those guys can get poached by a big team. Like, let's say you have a big year at a mid-major. Hey, all of a sudden, a big conference school may say, hey, guess what? We want to go and add this guy. We're going to go and pay this guy. What do I mean by that? That means it's year to year. You got to get hot. You got to have that chemistry humming for a year. And if you're building a program, that's kind of the way you have to approach it, year by year by year. You can't really think 3 and 4 years down the road. Impossible to do in this climate. And what does that mean for the NCAA tournament? More insanity.
Agree with you. All right, let's get to the two games. You're going to be out at the pool out in Vegas enjoying your bachelor party this weekend, but let's get to the two national semifinals. Let's start with San Diego State and Florida Atlantic first. The Owls they're a great team. They're 35-3 on the season, really well coached. You look at San Diego State, senior oriented. 7 of the 9 guys that play in their rotation are all seniors, veteran. They're all big. They rebound, they defend, great defensive, great perimeter defense as well. They pushed around. I think they intimidated Alabama. What do you make of San Diego State and FAU in the first game on Saturday?
Two teams we definitely didn't expect to see in the Final Four, and it's pretty crazy, Moose. Florida Atlantic is seconds away from losing their first-round game to Memphis. And I'm like dying at the end of that game because I had Florida Atlantic. I had a Florida Atlantic Sweet 16 ticket because I think I said this on your show a couple weeks ago. I was never a believer in Purdue.
Nope.
But they're seconds away from losing that game. They get the hell ball. They get the score. They beat Memphis. And they kind of parlay that all the way to a Final Four run. I think they're ready for this game. Now, full disclosure, aside from the Bama game, I've picked against San Diego State way too often, including the game against Creighton. They deserve to win that game against Creighton.
They were the better team.
They absolutely. Their defense was outstanding. Creighton could not get any good look the entire second half. So San Diego State is going to bring it defensively. But I think Florida Atlantic, from the experience of playing, let's say, a team like Memphis, the experience of playing a team like Tennessee, that to me plays a very similar style to what San Diego State wants to give you, I think Florida Atlantic is going to be ready for this game. I really do. This is, to me, a very tough game to handicap. The point spread indicates as such. It's a 2-point spread. This game I'm kind of on the fence with. I've been riding Florida Atlantic, Moose. I want to say 3 of their 4 wins I bet them. The only game I didn't bet them was the Fairleigh Dickinson game. I had them against Memphis. I had them against Tennessee. I had them against Kansas State. So my heart says Florida Atlantic. I'm going to give it another day or two before I finalize the pick. But I would say my lean right now, for game one of the Final Four, the Owls.
Which team do you think would give us a better game on Monday night? I know we'll get to Miami and UConn, but which team do you think would be able to handle the pressure of being 40 minutes away from a national championship?
That's a very good question. I think conventional wisdom would tell you San Diego State because of all of their experience. I just would say this, Moose. Don't sleep on this Florida Atlantic team. Don't. I mean,
they're good.
They've handled every test so far. It's not like they've beaten Cupcake City in their run to the Final Four. I don't think they – let's put it this way, Moose. I don't think either team in game one is winning on Monday night. I'm going to say San Diego State just because of the experience, but I wouldn't be surprised if Florida Atlantic played a good game Monday and lost competitively. I really wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't be surprised either. And I think San Diego State, the problem I have with the Aztecs would be this offensively. They can't go through these offensive droughts, especially if it's UConn in all likelihood sitting there on Monday night. I don't think they'd be intimidated. I don't think they're going to be out-muscled. I think they're a physical team. They just go through some of these offensive droughts when you look at San Diego State. Let's get to the UConn-Miami game. Make a case for the Canes on Saturday night when you look at it. Is it just all about the guard play when you look at, Miller and you look at Pack and you look at, the experience of Larinaga, second program that he's taken to the Final Four? Because as it goes along, you see more and more of the momentum of people and how could you not? They've gone through the first four games like a hot knife through butter. They've won each and every one of the games by 15 or more points when you look at Danny Early and the Huskies.
See, that's why I like Miami in this game, Moose, because you know the history of the NCAA tournament. You're telling me UConn is going to go through this entire road to a championship without being tested? I mean, let's be real about this. Their most challenging game was the first half against Rick Pitino's Iona team.
How did they lead that game at the half?
It's crazy. I mean, and it just shows you how good a coach Pitino is and how wonderful a job he's going to do at St. John's. You could take that to the bank. I mean, they smoked St. Mary's. They smoked Arkansas. Gonzaga was never in the game. I think Miami, though, is a team people have not respected enough. And you want to talk about a team that parlayed what happened in the first round all the way to the Final Four? They're down 7, Moose, with like 5 and change left against Drake. They're down 7 points with 5 minutes to go. They win that game. They smoke Indiana. And then, of course, they go on their run and they beat Houston thoroughly. And the Texas game showed me a lot, Moose, because I don't know if you felt this way. I'm Miami on Sunday. They're down 13 right out of the gate in the second half. I thought they were going to lose by 20 points.
I thought the game was over.
At that point, it looked
John, they came back without hitting the outside shot either. They didn't hit a 3 in the second half.
That's what I like about them. They get to the rack. They hit their free throws, which a lot of teams in college basketball, Moose, do not do. They hit them. They got to hit the outside shot, though. If they're going to have a realistic chance of winning this game on Saturday, they are not going to beat UConn hitting 2 or 3 3-pointers. They're going to have to hit the outside shot. But, Moose, the spread is 5.5. Everyone and their mother is betting UConn on Saturday. That line has not budged at all.
No.
The odds makers are very comfortable saying, hey, 5.5, here's the number, here's the spread. I will be on Miami Saturday night. I think they're in the game. I do. I think they're going to be in the game. I'm not saying they're going to win yet. I understand UConn deserves to be favored. They look like they are the best team going into the weekend. They're due for a white knuckler here.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, a team that we know at one point in time was number 1 in the nation when you look at Danny Hurley and the UConn Huskies. The other thing, and then we saw the inconsistency of play in the regular season, some injuries. And the other issue, there are times where Hurley, and I love the story. We all, if you grew up on the East Coast, you know about the Hurleys, right? Unbelievable story. But there are times where he gets a little tight coaching in games that are close. That hasn't been tested at any point so far in this NCAA tournament because his team is just steamroll teams.
I think there's something to that. And again, UConn this year in the tight game, they're a team that when they're running, they got the size, they get after it on D, they got a lot of different ways to beat you. Moose, they might be a front-runner team that wins a national championship. Maybe that ends up being their MO, but that tight game is coming, and I think it's coming on Saturday night. Like, let me put it to you this way. If UConn gets through Miami, I'm going to be stunned if they don't win on Monday.
No,
absolutely, positively stunned if they don't win on Monday. But Miami tested against Drake, tested in the Elite Eight, down double digits. They fall behind by 10. They're not going to be out of this game. They're not going to feel out of sorts. You like that about them. You do.
No, agreed. And I would make the argument I think the winner of that second semifinal on Saturday night is going to win the championship on Monday.
Agreed.
I mean, I do. I don't think Miami, if they get past UConn, is going to get denied by FAU or San Diego State. And if UConn obviously has their way with Miami and wins it stylishly, I don't even know what the spread would be on Monday night against the winner of San Diego State or Miami, given the fact of just how impressive they've looked up until this point in time. Let's get to a baseball opening day tomorrow. John, as you're on an in-flight out to Vegas for your bachelor party, what's your take on, let's start with the American League, the Yankees, dealing with injuries in their starting rotation. They had no other choice. Volpe earned the starting shortstop job. So, I mean, it was great that he got it, and I think a lot of Yankee fans are celebrating, but he was unbelievably impressive down in Florida in spring training. Do you think the Yankees have closed the gap on the Stros?
I think that remains to be seen. I think Volpe being a legitimate presence, giving him a dynamic of speed, going first to third, being the sort of ball player that's been lacking from this lineup, Moose. I don't want to put too much pressure on a rookie, but it's one of the ingredients that has really been lacking with this group when they failed to win in the postseason. Another huge key for them in the lineup, DJ LeMahieu needs to play.
He does.
He was their best hitter in 2019 and 2020. And if you look at the last two postseasons, Boston, wildcard game, doesn't play. Last year against Cleveland, against the Houston Astros, he's not there. He is a tremendous hitter. He is a guy that puts the ball in play. He's a guy that gets big hits. I'm not saying that if DJ LeMahieu played, they would have beat the Astros. They were not as good as the Astros. I think we all understand that. I think we all know that. But I really believe LeMahieu coming back makes a big difference for the Yankees. Look, I don't think they're winning the division, Moose. I don't. I think
like Toronto?
I like Toronto. I think everybody was ahead of the curve on Toronto last year, right? And they ended up firing their manager. They didn't get off to a great start. They got star power, man. Guerrero, Bichette, Kirk, Springer. I love their lineup. They made some nice moves in Varsho and Bassett. And here's the thing about baseball now. You know this. Winning the division, aside from, okay, you get that quote-unquote bye, it really don't mean a whole lot. I'm sorry. Like, when everybody goes to the playoffs, just get in.
Just get in. And
look
and
at
then
the Phillies. The Phillies last year stunk throughout the regular season. They got in. They got hot at the right time. They got to the World Series. Just get in. And you got to be playing your best baseball when you do get in. And what you got to watch, too, Rodon, Severino, that's fine. They're out for the month of April. Everybody misses time in baseball. So, like, I don't want to get nuts about this. They need both of those guys at the end of the year, pitching with Garrett Cole and Nestor Cortez. Those four improve the lineup. That's the key for the Yankees closing the gap.
All right, what about Seattle? Because not only are one of the teams that, you mentioned Toronto. I was going to ask you about Toronto, but you like them this year, and a lot of people are on thinking that the Blue Jays and Bo Bichette's going to have a huge year. Guerrero's going to have a huge year. A lot of love for Seattle as well. When you look at their starting rotation, Luis Castillo at the top of it, Julio Rodriguez, a young, dynamic offensive star. What about when you look at the Mariners this year in a division that obviously is the Astros to lose?
I love the Mariners this year. And, Moose, this might sound crazy because the Astros, they've been a wagon for about 6 or 7 years. They're in the ALCS every year. More often than not, they're in the World Series. Am I crazy to say a little regression might be coming their way? They lose Justin Verlander. Altuve is going to miss the first couple of months. Brantley is not back. I'm very bullish on this Seattle team. You mentioned the pitching. Castillo, Kirby, Gilbert, Robbie Ray. They got a lot of power arms. They have an outstanding bullpen. They have a young, emerging lineup. And I think the fact, Moose, that you have the balanced schedule now. So not as many games with the Astros. Not as many games with an improved Texas Ranger team. More games in that American League Central, which to me is very mediocre. And you want more games against the likes of the Royals and the Tigers and even teams like the White Sox and the Twins. Not believers in them. I think Seattle is absolutely a threat to go and represent the American League in the World Series. I am very big on the Mariners this season. I love them.
Let's just jump over to the National League, John. And, Padres spent a lot in the offseason. even though you look at that division, let's start in the National League West. I think the Dodgers, and I could be wrong. I think the Dodgers are due for, as you were talking about the Astros, I think the Dodgers are due for a little bit of a regression this year. Can't not like what San Diego did in the offseason. What about the Padres and Dodgers in that battle in the NL West?
I'm right there with you. I think the Padres are the team to beat in that division. The Dodgers, who have been a big spender the last couple of years, they didn't do anything this offseason. In fact, they lose one of the best players in baseball, Trey Turner, who's now a Philadelphia Philly. He goes, they don't really replace him. You go and lose Seager and Turner in back-to-back off seasons. You're not going to have Buehler at all this year.
Gavin Lux tore his ACL.
Gavin Lux blows at his knee first couple of days of spring training. Moose, this is one of my favorite unders for the year. And I know they're the Dodgers. They're going to make the playoffs. They're probably going to go and add to the team. I don't think the Dodgers are winning north of 95 games this year. I don't. I think they're under that total. I think they're in the low 90s. I think the Padres win the division. And I think a team like the Arizona Diamondbacks is going to be better than people think. I like them as an over this year. So I'm with you. I go under on the Dodgers.
What do you make of the NL East with the Mets? They're going to have to deal with the loss of Edwin Diaz back into the back end, closing games out. But you look at the Atlanta Braves, they lose Dansby Swanson in the offseason. Their shortstop position, a little bit state of flux to begin the year, although you'll see Vaughn Grissom at some point during the regular season. And then you got the Philadelphia Phillies, who are probably not going to have Bryce Harper for at least the first 3 months of the year.
I love the Braves. When in doubt, go with the team that has young, talented, studly position players. They have that. And, what's crazy, Moose, about the last 2 years, they win the World Series. Last year, they win the division. They have not gotten peak Ronald Acuna since he blew out the knee. They won the division last year. Let's be real. Ronald Acuna really did not get going until the end of the season. I think Ronald Acuna is going to have a monster year. That's my pick for National League MVP. I think with these new rule changes, he's going to be running like crazy. I think he ends up going 40-40. Like, I'm that bullish on the year he's going to have. And here's my thing with the Mets. The Mets have a good team. They had really good injury luck last year, right? So you have the two aging pitchers. They're pushing 40 or they're over 40 in Scherzer and Verlander. I have no idea what you're getting out of Senga. Then you look at the lineup. Is Nimmo going to play as many games? Is Marte going to play as many games? They had good injury luck with Lindor and Alonso last year.
They both played 160 games.
That's what I'm saying. Like, baseball tells you that's probably not going to happen again. I think the Mets will be a playoff team. I do not think they're better than the Braves. The Braves, to me, are the team to beat in the NL East.
All right, Game 1, Shohei Ohtani's an angel. Game 162 of the regular season. Is Ohtani an angel?
Wow, great question. Dodger.
You think he's a Dodger?
Dodger. And I think he ends up staying on the West Coast. Because remember, Moose, the Yankees wanted him badly. Like, that was
they spent
priority.
3 years on Shohei Ohtani. They were sending scouts all over. Yes.
Moose, the Yankees, that brand, and you know what it means in Japan? Matsui played for the Yankees. Tanaka, of course, played for the Yankees. I'm sure a guy like Shohei Ohtani, very aware of that, and basically was like, nah, I want to be on the West Coast. I don't know why all of a sudden that would change 4 or 5 years into a major league career. And he gets the star power of Los Angeles. He just goes to the better LA team. I think he's a Dodger.
Yeah, I could see that. And listen, he's going to get paid, and the Dodgers will be glad to pay him. I mean, his contract is going to be like, I can't even, it's going to be north of $500 million. I mean, you might be looking at a deal that's $550 million for Shohei Ohtani, all guaranteed.
Easily.
All right, John, final one for you. I want to get your thoughts on 2 things in the NFL. Number 1, Lamar Jackson and how it's ended and how it's going right now with the Baltimore Ravens. He's tweets out the other day. He asked for a trade March 2nd. John Harbaugh, owners meetings, is meeting with the media. He gets pelted with 47 questions. I think about 30 of them were about Lamar Jackson. I'm asking you right now, do you think Lamar Jackson, there's rumors about the Colts, the Washington Commanders, amazingly enough, are not in. The Atlanta Falcons are amazingly enough not in. We know he wants a fully guaranteed contract, and we know the NFL owners and GMs are ticked off about the Deshaun Watson contract he got from the Cleveland Browns. How does this play out with Lamar? Do you think he ends up being a Raven, or where do you think he ends up?
I thought all along, Moose, he'd be a Raven. I'm kind of at the point now where I think they're at a point of no return. I just think there's too much bad blood now between Jackson and the Ravens for them to have that partnership moving forward. And I know the Ravens aren't necessarily in a rush to do anything, but there's just too much smoke now. There's just too much animosity between both sides. I'm going to say Lamar Jackson opening week is playing for a different team next year. And I wouldn't be surprised if between now and the NFL draft, we're talking about Lamar Jackson getting traded to Indy or Washington. I don't think Baltimore would trade him to New England out of spite. I just don't think they would trade him to the Patriots because apparently that's where he wants to go. I don't think they'll do that. I say he ends up in Washington or he ends up in Indianapolis.
Think about that. Do you think he gets a fully guaranteed deal?
I'm going to say somebody gives it to him, yes. I do think at some point in time somebody will cave, Moose. And I know that Watson contract, especially with the baggage of Deshaun Watson, a lot of people are like, oh, whoa, how do you do that? Like the Ravens are probably saying, well, we're not as stupid as Cleveland. We don't want to do this. But Baltimore is in a weird spot because they're a good organization. They have good people running the organization. You getting a quarterback as good as Lamar Jackson?
Yeah.
I'm not so sold.
No, I agree with you. I don't think they are. And he's defined Raven football since he was named the starter. The last one being Rodgers. If I asked you, who do you think is lying, Rodgers or Brian Gutekunst, in terms of the communication between the two? What he had to tell Pat McAfee when you look at Rodgers, what Brian Gutekunst had to say at the owners' meetings a couple days ago. Who do you think is lying about the lack of communication or communication within the Packers about Rodgers' future?
I mean, listen, if you want to believe the Aaron Rodgers narrative, go and be my guest. The Packers clearly want to move on, right? Like, yeah. I think it's a situation where they don't know, Moose, how to say goodbye. It's just weird from their standpoint. They could have done this last year. It was such an easy out for them after last year when the Denver Broncos were interested. Everyone thought with Hackett taking that job, it was a foregone conclusion that he was going to be the next quarterback in Denver. He was coming off an MVP season, so it was like, we don't know what to do. The Packers don't play as well this year, and now I think the Packers are like, look, we have Jordan Love here. We made this draft pick. We got to go and let him be the quarterback. The problem is, Moose, there's a lot of drama attached to Aaron Rodgers. Like Aaron Rodgers, let's be real about this. He likes to ham this up. He's loving every minute of this saga and this subplot that comes with it. And I'm going to warn the Jet fan now, do not go and get Odell Beckham Jr. and put him with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, you want to talk about circus. Circus. I mean, listen, it's great for us, Moose. Yes. It's great for content. But my gut feel, the Aaron Rodgers, Odell Beckham Jr. era in gangrene won't result in a Lombardi trophy.
JJ, you're awesome, man. Safe travels out to Vegas. Have a great bachelor party this weekend. Love what you're doing with your podcast and everywhere you're at, MLB Network, SNY, and appreciate you, brother.
Moose, anytime, baby. You got it.
That's John Jastremski giving me his thoughts before he heads out to Vegas tomorrow for his bachelor party and talked about all different things. Listen, puts a bow on the show. I'll be back with you tomorrow. I think we've got Dr. Roto filling in for Keith tomorrow. My thanks to Ernie behind the scenes, JJ, Pat Perry for joining the program, you guys for being with us. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, everybody. Keep it locked right here, Better Sports Network.